Commander Thrax of the Kylar hegemony descended upon the fractured landscape of Terra Prime like a shard of obsidian night. His arrival a silent, gravitational ripple in the thick, chemical-laced air that now passed for an atmosphere. His black chrome armor, a marvel of molecular engineering that bent light around its edges, drank the mournful, bifurcated glow of the system's dying binary stars, one a bloated, weeping crimson giant, the other a sharp, vindictive blue dwarf, and gave nothing back, a perfect void in humanoid form. Below him, nestled in a valley carved not by gentle rivers but by the focused, surgical wrath of his fleet, lay the skeletal remains of what had once been the last bastion of species 734, the creature that had audaciously called itself human. The city, a geodesic marvel of crystal and steel now shattered into a million glittering tears across leagues of blackened earth, was a testament to the brief, almost pathetic duration of the final conflict. The great purification of the Terran sector, as it would be logged in the official annals, had concluded in a mere 3 standard cycles, a time frame that would be lauded for its brutal, almost beautiful efficiency in the hallowed halls of the Kylar War Academy. The humans, with their charmingly archaic chemical rockets and kinetic weaponry, had offered a resistance that was less a military campaign and more a final chaotic spasm of a dying organism. For Thrax, a being whose consciousness was a symphony of tactical logic, there was no elation in this victory, only the quiet, sterile satisfaction of a task completed. The final orbital scour, the cleansing fire that would render this planet into a sterile sphere, was but a perfunctory act of cosmic hygiene. Yet this final cleansing act had been postponed. A single glaring anomaly had registered on the pre-bombardment scans, a discordant note in the perfect symphony of annihilation he had conducted. One structure, a slender, impossibly elegant spire of what appeared to be pure white marble, stood pristine and utterly untouched at the very epicenter of the devastation. It was not shielded. The vast sensor arrays aboard the flagship, the indomitable Will, registered no energy field or exotic matter. It simply stood, a serene architectural ghost, a silent rebuke to the overwhelming power the Kylar had unleashed. This was no longer a military matter. It had escalated into a philosophical one, a violation of the fundamental principles of cause and effect. An irresistible force had met an object that, by all logic, should not have been immovable. This paradox had to be understood before it could be erased. Pride, a vestigial emotion the Kylar had supposedly transcended, demanded it. Overruling the cautious counsel of his subordinates, Thrax had decreed he would investigate the anomaly himself. He would be the one to solve this final, insolent puzzle before sweeping the pieces from the board forever. His descent into the dead city was a silent procession through a gallery of his own meticulous creation. The air, thin and tasting of vaporized plasteel and the sharp scent of ozone, was a familiar perfume. The silence was the most profound element, a heavy, compressed vacuum that was the ultimate testament to his race's efficiency. The spire, as he approached, grew more perplexing. The material was not marble, but a seamless, unknown substance that seemed to hum with a faint, internal luminescence. A single unadorned archway, a perfect parabola of absolute darkness, served as its entrance. Thrax, activating his full weapon systems, stepped through the archway into the heart of the anomaly. The transition was not merely physical, but ontological. He moved from the grit of a conquered world into a place of sterile geometric perfection. The interior was a single vast circular chamber, its walls, floor, and domed ceiling all forged from the same seamless, luminous white material. The silence here was different. It was not an absence, but a presence. And there, at the precise geometric center, sitting on a simple stone bench, was the source of the anomaly. A single human. He was ancient, a frail creature of parchment skin and brittle bones, draped in a simple, coarse-spun robe. As Thrax's massive form came to a halt, the old man slowly lifted his head. His eyes, the pale blue of a faded sky, held no terror or hatred, only the crushing weight of a billion sorrows and a calm so profound it was a power in itself. Thrax's synthesized voice echoed in the sterile chamber. "You are the last. the final data point of a terminated species. I presume you are the architect of this structure. A final futile gesture. A faint sad smile touched the old man's thin lips. Architect? Perhaps. But my title is more humble. I am the keeper, he said, his voice a dry rustle. And this is not a gesture of defiance, it is one of preservation. Thrax's sensors screamed a silent report. Nothing. No databanks, no energy cores, no technology. An empty archive is a monument to failure. Your species' history is one of noise. It is fitting that it concludes in this sterile void. The keeper's sad smile did not falter. His gaze was filled with a pity that was more insulting than any defiance. You misunderstand. The archive is not empty. It is merely silent. Your race has confused silence with emptiness for so long that you can no longer tell the difference. Silence is not an absence. It is a canvas. With a slow, deliberate movement, the keeper closed his eyes. A pressure, non-physical but immense, began to build in the chamber, a psychic gravity that bent Thrax's disciplined consciousness. The pristine white walls began to shimmer, and within them ghostly images swirled like smoke trapped in ice. Thrax saw not historical records, but feelings made manifest. The fierce, protective glare of a mother shielding her child. The quiet, shared smile of two lovers watching a sunrise. They were not recordings. They were the psychic residue of moments. Thrax staggered back, his weapon system failing to classify the threat. "What is this sorcery?" he demanded. The keeper's voice seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. "It is not sorcery. It is memory. Not the cold data you store on crystals, but the living memory that shapes the soul. This building has absorbed the quiet moments of my people for 1,000 years. Every joy, every sorrow, every silent act of courage is etched into its very structure." The psychic pressure intensified. Thrax was experiencing a feedback loop of pure empathy. A concept so alien it was a debilitating neurotoxin. He felt a phantom pang of loss for a child he never had, a surge of pride for a victory he never won. The ghostly images coalesced, telling a story not of battles, but of consciousness. He saw the birth of art, a handprint on a cave wall, a desperate cry of, "I was here." He witnessed the invention of music, a simple drumbeat giving rhythm to a chaotic world. He saw the creation of language, a clumsy, beautiful attempt to bridge the unbridgeable gulf between one mind and another. It was then that the final, terrible truth dawned upon Thrax's logical mind. The driving force behind all of this was a single, fundamental flaw in the human design: mortality. The humans created because they knew they would die. Their finite lifespan was not their weakness. It was the crucible in which their spirit was forged. Every song was sung a little louder, every color painted a little brighter, because they knew their time was fleeting. Their entire civilization was a testament built not of enduring stone, but of borrowed time. This realization struck Thrax with the force of a conceptual supernova. The hegemony, in achieving eternity, had become static. They had conquered death, and in doing so, had murdered the very engine of meaning. Their perfection was a sterile, cosmic prison. The keeper of the archive finally opened his eyes. In their faded depths, Thrax saw the light of 1 billion souls. "We knew we could never win a war against an eternal," he whispered, his voice a thought that bloomed in Thrax's mind. The goal was to leave an echo, a question, a silence filled with the memory of a song. As he spoke, his body began to lose its cohesion, turning translucent as his life energy was absorbed by the archive. "This building is not a tomb," he breathed, his form now a shimmering outline. "It is a seed, the final human story." With his final exhalation, the spire pulsed once with a soft white light that washed over Thrax. The psychic pressure vanished, but it left behind a hollow, echoing void. He was, for the first time, truly alone in his own mind. Thrax stood motionless in the center of the silent room for a long time, the dust of the keeper settling around him. His mission was complete. He could give the order for the final purge. He began to lift his arm, the servo motors in his armor whining softly. But his gaze fell upon the seamless white walls. They were empty again. But he knew better. It was not an emptiness of absence. It was the emptiness of a blank page. He, a being of pure logic, now understood the profound and necessary function of a flaw. He understood the terrible, beautiful, and creative power of an end. Slowly, deliberately, he lowered his arm. The whine of the servos died. He turned and walked out of the archive, leaving the spire untouched, a silent monument in the heart of a dead world. As he ascended back to his fleet, back to his sterile, perfect universe, he carried a new directive within him, one not given by the hegemony, but by the ghost of a dead species. He would become the new keeper. He would spend his eternity not enforcing the silence, but studying it, listening for the echo of a song he had only just begun to understand. The war was over. Humanity had lost. But they had left a scar, not on the galaxy, but on the very soul of eternity itself. And the silence they left behind was louder than any explosion.